Night of Horror. The Oakland Zoo has always been known as one of California's happiest family attractions. Elephants, giraffes, and lions drawing in thousands of visitors every weekend. But behind that laughter and excitement, a secret nightmare was growing in the summer of 1997. One that would change the zoo forever. It started quietly on the night of June 14th, a Saturday. The zoo had closed hours ago, and only a few night workers remained. Security guard Harold Lewis began his usual midnight patrol, walking the dim paths between the animal enclosures, checking locks, feeding logs, and power lines. But around 12:47 a.m., he heard a sound that didn't belong, a high-pitched scream that echoed across the quiet hills. At first, Harold thought it came from the lion enclosure, maybe an animal fight. But the more he listened, the more he realized it was human. He grabbed his flashlight and ran toward the sound. Near the maintenance shed, the beam caught something dark on the ground, blood, fresh and smeared across the concrete. The trail led toward the back of the reptile house. Harold followed it, shaking, whispering to himself, "Please let it be an animal." But what he found wasn't. Lying beside a row of garbage bins was the lifeless body of 25-year-old Melissa Grant, a zoology intern. Her clothes were torn, her ID tag snapped in half, and her face frozen in terror. When police arrived, they at first thought an animal might have escaped. But every cage was locked and no creatures were missing. The medical report later confirmed what no one wanted to believe. Melissa hadn't been attacked by an animal. Her wounds were clean, precise and intentional, made by something sharp, not claws or teeth. Within 24 hours, the zoo became a crime scene. Reporters surrounded the gates. News vans lined the roads. "Zoo worker murdered on the job," flashed across every local channel. Detectives began interviewing every employee from trainers to janitors. One name kept coming up, Eli Turner, a former animal handler who'd been fired months earlier for breaking safety rules. He was quiet, intelligent, and obsessed with animal freedom. When he was fired, he reportedly shouted, "The cages will open one day, even if I have to do it myself." Still, there wasn't enough evidence. No one had seen him near the zoo in months. Then, just 2 nights later, a second body was found. This time it was Thomas Reeves, a 33-year-old maintenance worker. His body was discovered early in the morning, slumped against the staff locker room door. His neck had been slit, and a lion mask had been placed over his face. The message was impossible to ignore. Someone wanted the world to think the animals were taking revenge. Detectives connected both murders immediately. Security cameras near the employee lot had been cut both nights. Whoever did it knew exactly where the blind spots were. The police searched every inch of the zoo. They found a small notebook in Melissa's locker. Inside were sketches of animal enclosures, feeding schedules, and a list of zoo workers. On the last page, written in red ink, were 5 haunting words. "He said the animals will rise." That phrase sent chills through investigators. The handwriting was shaky but seemed rushed, almost like she wrote it moments before her death. Detective Sandra Morales, who led the case, began digging into old employee files. And soon, everything pointed back to one person, Eli Turner. Turner had been an animal caretaker for nearly 5 years. But according to co-workers, he'd changed in his final months. He'd stopped eating lunch with others, started talking to the animals as if they could answer back, and began saying things like, "They're not ours to keep." He even once locked himself inside the lion enclosure overnight, claiming he was trying to connect. When the staff found him the next morning, he was covered in scratches but smiling. Turner disappeared soon after being fired. No one knew where he went. But everyone feared the same thing, that he had returned. By late June, the police released his photo to the public. Tips began pouring in, but none led to him. Then one rainy night, a janitor cleaning the zoo's education center called 911, whispering that someone was moving inside the reptile house after hours, a man wearing a zoo uniform. The nightmare wasn't over. The zookeeper's curse. It had been 2 long weeks since the gruesome murder of 2 Oakland Zoo employees, Melissa Grant and Thomas Reeves. The city was terrified. The zoo was shut down. And the whispers wouldn't stop. Every news report started the same way. A killer is on the loose, someone who knows the zoo better than anyone else. Detective Sandra Morales, who'd been on the case from day one, refused to let it turn cold. She was convinced that Eli Turner, the quiet, disturbed former zookeeper, was behind it all. But there was one problem: Eli had vanished completely. No bank activity. No family contact. Nothing. Then, on the night of June 28, 1997, everything changed. It was a rainy Saturday night. Most of the zoo was dark, except for a few emergency lights that gave the animal enclosures a strange, ghostly glow. The wind howled through the empty pathways, making the metal gates rattle like chains. At 10:42 p.m., the police got a call from Kevin Miles, a night janitor who worked at the zoo's education center. His voice was trembling. "I saw someone inside the reptile house. He's wearing a zoo uniform, but we're closed. I think it's him." Within minutes, officers surrounded the area. Detective Morales arrived on site with her flashlight and pistol drawn. The rain soaked through her jacket, but she didn't stop. She knew this was it. The reptile house was silent when they entered, except for the faint hum of the generators and the slow, eerie dripping of water. Inside, the air was thick, humid, and heavy with the smell of old straw and decay. Then a noise. A dragging sound, metal against concrete. Morales raised her light and called out, "Eli Turner, this is Detective Morales. Drop whatever you're holding and step into the light." No answer. Just breathing. Then, from behind a large python tank, a figure slowly stepped forward. It was Eli. He looked thinner, his face pale and streaked with dirt. His zookeeper uniform was stained with blood, and his eyes were wide, unblinking, lost. In his hands he held a rusted tranquilizer gun. "Eli," Morales said carefully, "you don't need to do this. It's over." He smiled faintly. "It's not over. They're free now." As Morales moved closer, her flashlight beam revealed what he meant. Several cages were open, snakes slithered across the floor, and a few small monkeys clung to pipes near the ceiling. The officer beside Morales whispered, "Oh my God." Eli tilted his head. "You can't keep them locked up. The zoo is a prison. They remember what you did to them." His voice was calm, but the way he stared at her, like she wasn't even human, made the air feel heavier. He slowly lowered the gun toward himself. "I didn't kill them, Detective. The zoo did." Before Morales could reach him, he pulled the trigger, firing the tranquilizer dart straight into his own neck. He collapsed instantly. Officers rushed forward, cuffing him even as his breathing slowed. He was taken to the hospital in critical condition, barely alive. But what investigators found inside the reptile house that night was worse than anyone imagined. Inside a small storage room behind the reptile tanks, police found what looked like a personal lair. The walls were covered with drawings of animals attacking people. There were animal bones arranged in circles, melted candles, and photos of zoo employees with their eyes scratched out. On a table sat a stack of cassette tapes, each one carefully labeled in red ink. Rebirth of the Wild, Tape 1. Rebirth of the Wild, Tape 2. And so on. When the police played the first tape, they heard Eli's voice, calm, slow, almost hypnotic. "The cages will open. The animals will rise. They've been locked up too long. We are the real monsters." Each recording detailed his descent into madness. He spoke about hearing voices from the enclosures, whispering to him, telling him that the zookeepers must pay. He believed the animals were using him as their messenger, commanding him to restore balance. Melissa and Tommy, his two victims, had both reported Eli's erratic behavior before he was fired. In his mind, they had betrayed the cause. Detective Morales later described the tapes as the most disturbing evidence I've ever heard, a man slowly losing his mind and justifying murder as mercy. The investigation revealed Eli had been hiding inside the zoo for weeks. He'd built a small shelter under the reptile house using maintenance tunnels, a maze few employees even knew existed. He lived off animal food and vending machine snacks. At night, he roamed the grounds, whispering to the cages and planning his revenge. The district attorney prepared charges for 2 counts of first-degree murder. But when Eli regained consciousness weeks later, he was ruled legally insane. He claimed he didn't remember the murders, only helping the animals speak. Eli Turner was sent to the California State Psychiatric Hospital, where he remains to this day. In a rare 2015 interview, he said only one thing to the journalist who asked why he did it. "You call it murder. I call it freedom." The Oakland Zoo reopened the following year with higher security, new surveillance systems, and a memorial for the 2 workers who lost their lives. But something about the place never felt the same. Several night guards have claimed that strange things happen after closing. They hear whispering near the reptile house when no one is there. Tools fall on their own. Doors creak open. And sometimes they swear they see a shadow moving along the glass, wearing a faded zookeeper's jacket. Some say it's Eli's ghost still walking the zoo grounds. Others believe it's just guilt, the echo of a tragedy too dark to forget. But one thing everyone agrees on. When night falls at the Oakland Zoo, No one patrols alone. And every June on the anniversary of the murders, the animals grow restless. They pace, they growl, they cry through the night, as if remembering something they wish they could forget.